Officially, welcome to Plant Families in Our Foods, Series 2. Props to all of you who are brave enough to come back for more. My name is Ivea Moore. I'm also called the Mad Botanist for a good reason. And my hope with this class is not to cram people's head full of a ton of knowledge and vocabulary. I'm not trying to drive people crazy. Instead, what I'd like to do is have this class for you as an invitation to learn how to see the plants, to learn how to look for the patterns within them, and to get curious about them. So we're going to be looking at each class, we'll be looking at one plant family, so that way we can really get into looking for the patterns. But don't worry if it's still difficult after we do this. I identify as a botanist, but that doesn't mean that I know a ton of plants. There's a lot I don't know. For me, what being a botanist means is getting excited about looking for those answers. So I want to encourage people to join in with me in my excitement. And I'm really happy to have you all here with me today. So without further ado, I am going to share my screen and we can get started. Welcome to Plant Families in Our Foods and Nature Journaling Series 2. I want to mention part of why this workshop took so long to put together is because I couldn't get enough photos of all of the different specimens for each of these families. One of my supervisors kind of made fun of me for series 1 and told me I did all of the so-called easy families. I wanted to laugh at him. Anyways, but part of why he said that is because I had a lot more specimens to work with and take photos of. But in this particular case, some of these families are a bit harder for me to find. So I'm very thankful to Creative Commons for all of the photos, and all of the credits, unless otherwise mentioned, are theirs. They belong to them. So here we go. Oh, why are we not moving? Okay, there we go. So we will start with looking at 3 different photos. With each one, we will take 2 minutes to sketch. You can sketch however much or however little you can. Don't worry, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just getting the idea of this plant down. And then after the 2 minutes we spend sketching, then we'll have a minute to add any words and numbers to our pictures. So we'll start now with 2 minutes. All right, those were our first 2 minutes. So now you can take another minute to add any words or numbers, observations, questions, describing words, any of those to your pictures, starting now. And that was our minute. Now we will move on to our second picture. And once again, we'll take 2 minutes to sketch this plant. You don't have to sketch the whole thing. Sometimes when you have a plant like this, it can help to just focus on one of the small flowers and then just kind of block in the others. But no worries. Let's take 2 minutes starting now. So we've got about 20 more seconds for this one. Okay, and that was our 2 minutes. And now let us take 1 more minute, please, to add any words or numbers to our pictures. About 10 more seconds. And there's our minute. One final picture to go. Once again, we'll take 2 minutes to sketch, starting now. Let's take about 15 more seconds. And there is our 2 minutes. And then 1 more minute to add any words and numbers to our pictures. And there's our minute. Thank you, everybody. All right, who is ready to meet the family of the day? I see some hands. I see people waving. All right, here we go. Without further ado, and a particular person who's here today is going to be very happy about this, I think. Welcome to the Heather family, Eric Hacier. And yes, this is in honor of Heather. It's one of the ones that I'd considered teaching last time, but then we didn't have, I had to just be selective. But this is one of my favorites. So sometimes it can be called the Heath family. Other people may know it as the Blueberry family, but I call it the Heather family. And that's because Erica is Latin for Heath. And I don't know if there's any other names for this family, any old Latin names. I do know that they combined a bunch of subfamilies under this one, but I don't think not since I was taught it, or at least if so, then there must be very small changes. So this is not one of the ones they've been playing musical plants with nearly as much lately. So here we go. I always start out, just in case we have beginners, I always start out with our basic flower diagram. I try not to be too vocabulary heavy. So this is hopefully like, if this is the basic vocabulary, and this is, if you can get this, then the rest will, sort of fall into place. So we have our stem here. We have our sepal. That's the little green bit that usually cups the petals of the flower. You can, or not always green, sometimes different colors. We have our petals. We have a stamen, and we have a pistil. And this is the anatomy that you'll see in a textbook usually. Now, the stamens are the ones that make the pollen, and the pistils are the ones that make the seeds. So the way I remember that is PSSP. Pistils make seeds, stamens make pollen. That's our basic diagram. And this is how our family of the day differs a bit. Now, I should warn that some of the petals have different formations than this, but this is one of the most common forms that you'll see of the heather family. It's this lovely bell-shaped fused petals together. When you have petals that are fused into sort of one big one, or one big cup of them, then we call that a corolla. But a corolla is just a fancy name for multiple petals. So we have either 5 petals that you can see separately, or else you have one united corolla with 5 lobes. But the pattern is 5s. The same thing with the stamens. With the stamens, you either have 5 or you have 10, not in between the two, but it's because it seems to be multiples of 5s are the patterns. We have sepals, again 5, but usually they kind of cup very closely to the petals. And sometimes you'll find them united at the base instead of being separate. And then last but not least, we have a pistil, this entire thing. And the neck of this is called the style, and that is usually pretty long. So sometimes you'll even see it extending out beyond the petals, depending on which ones. The ovary sometimes will have chambers, but these are all parts of the pistil. So that's sort of what our anatomy looks like today. I'll give folks a chance if they want to draw this. And then we can go back and quickly look at the photos from the beginning so you can sort of see this form. Does anybody have any questions so far? You can unmute. Sometimes it's hard for me to see, but people can unmute if they want to and ask questions.
Eva, do you have any idea why corollas are fused? I mean, why is that such a common thing that we see?
That's a really good question. I'm not sure why they tend towards this, but it seems as though that evolutionarily is a bit newer. That as the evolution goes on, it seems to favor more tubular flowers. And I'm not sure whether that's being selected for by the pollinators, or whether sometimes I wonder if maybe it protects the pollen or protects the plants from certain things getting inside, but I don't know. And I think it would be really, really fun to explore and learn more about. It's one of those things where I bet if I looked, I could find botanists who have answers to it, but I think it'd be more fun to make a Y web and just come up with my own ideas first. But I really like that question. I'll go back a little bit so that we can sort of look at the ones at the beginning. It occurs to me I didn't say which ones those are, so I apologize. This one I can't remember, which is kind of bad, because I was looking at so many of them that day. But I remember at least thinking about blueberries. So I'm not sure if this is a blueberry or not, but I remember thinking about them that day. So it looks like it might be in that, possibly in that genus, but I'm not sure. This one here is called deerberry.
Could that other one be one of the strawberry trees?
Possible. It is possible. It could be.
Mm-hmm.
This one's definitely a deerberry. I had to look that one up again to remember. Let's let's see here. Well, I like Susan's idea about why the tubular bits, because maybe it forces pollinators to delve deep into the flower and brush against the pistil while getting the nectar. I like that. I like that theory. So that's deerberry. This one here, I believe this is rhododendron.
Right.
And I know that azaleas are within rhododendron. Azaleas are a kind of the rhododendron. But I'm not sure if this is specifically an azalea or not, but it's definitely a rhododendron. The more showy relatives, I guess.
Is an azalea or rhododendron edible?
Sorry, edible?
Are the flowers edible?
I don't believe so. I think they're kind of poisonous, but
Oh, okay. So this is not part of your food.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
But we'll come to the food ones in a little bit. But yeah, this one's not edible.
I have a question.
Yes.
The rhododendron, are they related to amaryllis? Because they almost look like it, except they don't have all the different colors in them.
They look really similar. They're not related to them, but the color, but it's interesting to note the similarities in them and question why. You know, why do they have these showy petals like this? What does this, how does this help these and also the amaryllis? But we are going to go over the amaryllis family later, so spoiler alert. But yeah, they're not related, but they do have similar sort of features, don't they? And then this one here, I believe this one is called a pink mountain heather. Interestingly, I found out that heathers have a whole bunch of different genuses that are called that. And I can't remember what this one's name is, but it's not just Erica like I thought it was. And then this here, this one's definitely a blueberry. Maybe the other one was not a blueberry. But yeah, this is blueberry. And you can see the way that the pistils are left behind after the corolla falls off. And you can see these little cups in here are the sepals all united together. So next, here are some of the key characteristics, and this is kind of a lot. I recommend that if you want to, you can sort of put diagrams with what you've drawn, or you can also screenshot, because I know it's kind of a lot of information, but you don't have to write all of it. Some of it's just extra details. One thing, at least that I've observed about them, is that they're oftentimes evergreen shrubs. So they last a long time. They don't just die out after one season. The leaves can change. For example, with a lot of the heathers, they'll have needle-like leaves, really gorgeous little needle-like leaves. Whereas you get something like manzanita or madrone, and they have sort of oval-shaped leaves. So that's a bit different. Let's see, what else? A lot of, you'll notice that the clusters of flowers, a lot of them have either a bell or an orange shape. You see that, and immediately you're going to want to question, is this an Ericaceae that I'm looking at? It might not be, but that's a good place to at least start your questioning. Although, as you've seen with some of the others, sometimes they can have funnel-shaped flowers, or what we call reflexed petals. What that means is that the petals are sort of drawn back, so that you have part of the flower pointing down, and then the petals themselves are sort of pointing backwards. And I'm sure I have an image in there somewhere in my head of like, yeah, I can't think of what it was, but yeah. The sepals.
Would that be like a shooting star?
Yes, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah, just like a shooting star. And then we have 5 sepals, they're very tidy looking, 5 petals. And if they're completely united, as we talked about, then that means that they're a corolla. A lot of ones I've noticed are in white, also though pink and red, and occasionally purple and orange. So colorful family, but look for mostly white and pink. And that's where you're going to see the most common colors. Either 5 or 10. I'm not sure why. Sometimes they're doubled and sometimes they're not. The pistil has one long style, and I think of it sort of like a bell's clapper. So I'm going to, sorry, I have to go back for a quick second. So like, for example, this one here, I almost think about it as the clapper of the bell, and that if I wanted to, I could just reach out and ring the bell with it. So that makes me think of that. Sort of looks like that part of a bell. They'll hold on when the other parts fall off, and often they grow in acidic conditions. So you got your cranberries that grow in bogs. You've got your blueberries and your rhododendrons that tend to love acidic soils. which is why when you grow them, then you're going to want to give them some acid mix every once in a while. It makes them happy. But as always, let the plant that's in front of you tell you. There's definitely exceptions to this. And it's hard. It's hard to remember all of this. After a while, you just sort of get the feeling of, could this plant be? And it might not be, but sometimes that intuition really helps you to identify them. So I'll give folks another couple minutes to copy this down if they would like. And then we'll get into the foods, I think. Well, no, wait. Maybe an anatomy picture too.
I remember one other thing about blueberries. When I grew them, I had to look for like very special varieties because it doesn't get cold enough here for them to bloom. We had to get ones that were adapted to warmer weather.
Yep. Heather, it's definitely a thing is, do they get cold enough? And I'm not sure why. I'm wondering if it's because it helps the fruit set or what it triggers. But
apples are the same way, and we couldn't grow okra and tomatoes as well. There's something about it needs a cold period to, or it doesn't get hot enough. Some of them it didn't get hot enough. I think the okra and the tomatoes it didn't get hot enough.
Yeah, that too. The heat. I know a lot of members of, especially of the Solanaceae, seem to need a lot more heat.
I asked, is that why they call it ericaceous soil? Because I had the impression that was referred to acidic soil.
Mm-hmm.
Is it just like it's called it because it's soil that would be appropriate to grow members of this family in?
Yep, that's exactly why.
You know, we have our pine barrens out here, which has, I guess, the pine needles make the soil very acidic, and so the blueberries and huckleberries grow very nicely.
Oh yeah.
Even though it's quite dry in a lot of places. But
I'm betting that they love that soil.
oh yeah.
But yeah, that is why they call it ericaceous soil.
There, we've been harvesting blueberries. Sorry, I was going to say, we've been harvesting blueberries for the last couple of weeks here. We've got so many, because we've only got 15 shrubs of them. But each year they've produced more and more. We've got a very acidic soil. It's almost about 5 on the scale. So they do like this acid or the acidic soil. Yeah, sure.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm glad that just makes me really happy that you have so many of them. Someday I'm going to grow a ton of blueberries too. I grew them in my backyard for quite a while, and they worked out okay until, I'm not sure what I did wrong. Maybe I pruned them wrong, but yeah, love blueberries. And
they're not all the same. We've got one shrub that produces twice the size of each fruit is so big, like compared to the others. There's one that's really, really tiny. So I don't know if they've been, when we first bought them, there was one called Denise and one called Bridget and all this sort of, so that maybe they've been hybridized to produce bigger fruit.
that
But they're beautiful, sweet and lovely. But I don't know if the natural ones, because they're called, when they originally found them, I think they come from America, don't they? In the high country.
I feel like,
is that right?
I feel like the answer ought to be yes on that one.
I don't know where they originate.
Because I definitely remember walking on, I think it was Mount Baker, and picking wild blueberries before with some friends. That's in Washington, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's something I want to research as well.
I think I did read that, and they're called high bush something, but I'm not sure which state or where they originally came from. And of course, now they're all over the world. But the ones we've got here do like the cold climate. Sorry?
We have at least 2 species here that I've seen, which are high bush blueberry and low bush blueberry in upstate New York, where it is right now quite snowy. It was quite remarkable to recognize it for the first time this past spring, because I had seen the low bush blueberries, which are quite low and creeping and sort of hide underneath the other bushes, but have their very lovely white flowers. And at one point I stumbled across this great big, very nearly a small tree. It was taller than I was, with the exact same flowers and leaves. And I realized it was high bush blueberry. So there you go. And I believe they are native to our area at least, but I don't know if there are others that are native to other continents.
It'd definitely be something to investigate more about. And so these are good questions, and these are the kind of questions I want people to remember to put into their journals too. I'm going to be putting these into mine so that I can I can try to find out more about them. But this is the kind of excitement I want people to have about plants. So I love those questions. And I wanted to show you all a picture of the inside. I don't know that I'll be able to do this on all of our families to come, but I could on this one. This is off of a tree that grows really close to where I live, the strawberry tree, which is not related to the strawberry. They just call it that. It's actually related to the madrone. But this is sort of what the inside looks like. And the reason why I put it upside down is because this is how they hang. A lot of times they hang flower pointing down. And so I thought that was important to have. So I just wanted people to have a look at that.
This is Danny. You had mentioned that the ovaries are sometimes chambered. Do they go in the same 5 and 10 chambers?
I think 5s a lot of times.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
That's a good question. So yeah, it might be hard to see it with here. You can sort of see it more at the bottom. The other thing, and I'm going to go into the ovaries a bit later on in another workshop about just ovaries in general. But with this family, they don't really have a clear pattern about whether the ovaries are superior, like you see here, or inferior, which is where you'd see them over here. So that's why that's not one of the details I mentioned, is that some species will have them inferior and others will have them superior. So here we go. Now I believe we're going to go for foods. So I know that Heather knows a bunch of these. I would like to know, does anybody else know any foods that you might find in Ericaceae? Or any guesses?
I'll take the low-hanging fruit of huckleberries.
Huckleberries.
On account of they're nearly identical to blueberries.
Yep. And blueberries. Any others?
Cranberries in that group?
Cranberries, that's right.
Mm.
Well, here. I'll show the ones that we have. As you all guessed, blueberries, cranberries, and huckleberries. And then, as I mentioned, the strawberry tree fruit, which, yeah, I asked a friend of mine, what do you call it from a strawberry tree? And I was expecting him to say strawberries, and he looked at me, thought for a second, and said strawberry tree fruit. So there you go. This one is related to the madrone. Madrone is also arbutus for those who live in California or out in the coast. And then manzanitas are also part of Ericaceae. And so I have a special love for them, the Arctostophilus. And as we saw with the rhododendrons and the heathers and a bunch of others, there's a bunch of ornamentals, although you shouldn't eat those. Although I think that some of the heathers might be somewhat edible. I'm not totally sure. But either ways, just be cautious about ornamentals. Don't go eating them. Some of them are kind of poisonous. I'm thinking of the rhododendrons when I say that. Part of why I included this family is because even though there aren't, I mean, I think this is a pretty good amount, but even though there's not a ton of members that we eat, unlike, the grasses, it's still one that you'll see an awful lot when you're going around. And because of the specialty soils that they need, it makes it a more interesting family, I think. So those are the foods. And are there any that you can eat the leaves or seed, or well, I guess you can't eat the seeds, but are there any that you can eat the leaves or any other part of the plant or the roots? I feel like the answer might be yes. One I forgot to include was salal. I think you can eat the leaves, but I'm not sure. I'd have to double check about the salal. Actually, I just so happen to have a book about useful wild plants. So let me just take a quick little look and see if you can eat the salal leaves. La la la, salal. Where are you, salal? I'm not sure because it doesn't say. Anyways, yeah, you might want to check. But yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, as always, always double check before you go eating plants. Don't just go eating plants. I'm not here to endorse that. But yeah, always check first. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that our next part is the part everybody always loves. Who's ready to play Spot the Aracaceae? Ready? Okay, here we go. Oh, yeah, no, there we go. And now I just have to enable the polls if I can. Come on, polls, where are you? For some reason, it's giving me a little trouble with this. Let's see. I'm not sure why it's not letting me do the polls. That's a little confusing. Oh, sorry about this, everybody. I've been very lucky too, because there were because the last time I did this, I was very lucky because my friend Anne was my amazing co-host. And so she was making sure these work, but for some reason mine, is anybody seeing the polls at all or no? No, huh? Okay. In that case, I apologize. I'm not sure exactly how to do the polls.
Do you want to make me a co-host, Ivea, and see if then I have access to your poll?
Oh my God, you're here. Yes, please.
Yeah, I came late. Sorry. I just got in.
You're totally fine. I'm just like, I was just, thank you.
Okay, now I'm a co-host. Let's see if I have access now.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Let's see. Polls. Ooh, launch. Okay.
It lets you? Okay, good. That's excellent.
There we go. Okay.
Thank you, Anne. Are people seeing the poll? Okay, cool. For some reason, it's not letting me see it, but the same thing happened before with Jack. Anyways, so yeah, I'll give people about a minute or so. And don't worry, I believe this is all anonymous. And again, this isn't to stress people out or make people think, oh, I have to know all of this. This is just to get used to looking at flowers that look similar and learning how to see those differences. So don't worry about getting it wrong. This is just practice for when you're in the field. So we'll give people.
We have 15 out of 20 participants.
Thank you.
And I know I'm not voting because I'm running the poll. I don't think I get to do both. So. Oh, there's 18 out of 20. Woo.
Okay. We'll give folks about 10 more seconds. And
This is fun.
this is thanks to Melinda. I had the idea of doing the Spot the Plant family member, but I hadn't thought of polls until Melinda said so. So this is thanks to her.
This is my favorite part.
So who's ready to find out the answer? We ready?
Yeah.
Awesome. Here we go. It was C, Heather, the actual Heather. So our friend here, Heather Krellen, yeah, who's pointing at herself. This is the beautiful flower that Heather's named after. And it is beautiful, isn't it? So, and thank you so much, Anne, for figuring out how the polls worked. Thank you.
Is that is it Irish or Scottish? Is that the English Heather?
I believe, I'm not sure which Heather this is, but I do know that they are beloved in Scotland.
Scotland.
That's where they're beloved. So I'm not sure which one this is, but I just know it's Heather and it's quite beautiful. So
makes me think of the song from Brigadoon, through the heather on the hill. I can't remember the rest of it, but
who's ready for round two?
Wait, can I ask you a question though? On the heather, are there genuinely two different sorts of flowers? Because the flowers in the lower part of the stem are like much paler and have more distinct petals.
I noticed that.
It is old.
I wasn't sure whether they were old or whether the flower is like monoecious or what. I wasn't really sure.
Or maybe those are actually the sepals after the rest of the flower has fallen off.
Could be.
It's very strange.
I thought that was kind of neat too. A little
to investigate heather. So I want to go to Scotland, investigate some more heather.
I think that'd be fun. All right, are you ready for round two? Here we go. Spot the Aracaceae round two.
Okay, I have to figure out how to I guess, relaunch poll. Just gonna try this, see if it works.
And then if it's the same one, it doesn't really matter. I mean, they're all going to be, it's going to be the same thing, just A, B, and C.
It worked.
Thank you so
Good.
much. Anne.
Yeah, we're getting some votes. Yeah.
Cool. This one's a little bit more challenging. I put this one in just because I really, really, really wanted to show you the particular flower. I know that that's kind of wrong and evil of me, but I just wanted to show you because it's really cool. Also, for folks who took series 1, you might recognize one of the plants.
That's what helped me on my vote. Was I like, hey, I've seen that.
Yep. And yep, I agree, Heather, A does look like a heart. How are we doing on votes? Do people need more
We
time?
have 17 out of 20 have voted.
Okay, I'll give people
Oh,
10.
there's 18.
Nice. And again, don't worry. It's like, there's absolutely no worry about getting this wrong or right. Again, this is just practice. So who's ready to find out the answer? Yeah? Okay. It was B, cranberry. And that's the reason why I've included it, is because it's cranberry. And I was looking at it and saying, hey, you're not bell-shaped and you don't have this look like a rhododendron. What am I going to do with you? And so that's why I wrote reflex petals, because these are reflexed. Not nearly as reflexed as some of the others, but still.
It
This
doesn't
one,
look like it has 5.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That looks like I'm seeing 3.
question, huh?
Hmm.
It makes me wonder,
Um,
is it 3 or is it because
can
we're
I
having,
say something about a?
Mhm.
A friend of mine said that it's off, and that's because if you turn it upside down as a dicentra and you pull those 2 petals apart, it looks like a lady sitting in the bath.
oh, that sounds beautiful. I'll have to try
I
that.
don't know if that's what Susan was going to put. She was going to put a common name in there.
Yep.
And
And
the dicentra.
and you can just say what who knows the common name of A?
Well, I know it as bleeding heart.
Same
Bleeding heart, yeah.
member of the poppy family. And for
Oh, really?
yep, and for my friends who were there for series 1, who remembers this one over here on C?
That's the, is it Queen of the
that,
Night? The one that has the sweet smell?
The hauntingly sweet smell that you should never ever eat because it will really,
Yeah.
really mess
It's
you up.
toxic, isn't it? Yeah,
It has a, oh, go ahead. I saw,
begins with D, but I can't think. I can't remember.
So-
I've got blank.
so so it's called in Spanish Reina de la Noche, in English called Angel's Trumpet. And
Yeah.
and then the scientific name is Brugmansia, not to be confused with
Yeah.
Datura. Datura is similar, same family, but
Yeah.
not Datura. This is Brugmansia. So yeah, Angel's Trumpet. Also in the
Mm.
Solanaceae family. So I know some friends might recognize this one and my obsession with it. But yeah, here is our cranberry. I just thought that that was just so cool. I never seen a cranberry flower
Beautiful.
before and I had to share it. Yep, exactly. Queen of the Night is Reina de la Noche. All right, who's ready for round 3? Okay, last round. And yes, I made this difficult on purpose. Not to be mean, just because plants are difficult and that's okay.
Right. We have one just outside of the Salem, Oregon Public Library, and I spent a week looking that one up, so I know what that one is.
A, B, or C that you've seen outside?
C is the one that's outside.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Fruit on C does look a bit like a raspberry on steroids.
The description. So do people need more time?
We have 13 out of 20 voted.
Okay.
14,
We'll give people a bit more time then.
15.
And again, no worries, just make your best guess.
17. Do we have one more? We've been getting 18 usually. But this is a tough one.
It is. We good? Do people want to know the answer?
Yep.
Here we go. It was
Please.
C. Now, my question is, what, for those who guessed C, what tells you that it was this one? What clues did you see in this one that say that this one is Ericaceae?
Flower.
For me, it was the leaf shape. The one on A really caught me, but then I looked at the leaf and it made me think of like a monocot or like a lily or something.
That's Lily of the
Lily of
Valley.
the
isn't it?
Valley.
Yeah.
Lily of the Valley, yeah.
I would have gone for A immediately, except that I did recognize it as Lily of the Valley, and I was really going for B at first, because
Abelia.
but then I remembered, it's got lots of stamens sticking out, but not the pistil sticking out.
And so, so all of you are correct. And Jasmine, I'm glad that you noticed about this particular huge leaf back here. This is very characteristic of monocots, is to have these parallel veins like this. So yes, this is Lily of the Valley. And also you might notice that it's missing its sepals. It doesn't have, well, that's more complicated. That has to do with sepals and tepals and all of that. But you'll notice that it doesn't have sepals here. So yes, it looks similar, but it is Lily of the Valley. And this is Lobelia, which I believe is in Caprifoliaceae, another family that's bien complicado. But this is indeed, this is the strawberry tree. The raspberries on steroids are actually quite delicious. I like to eat them. So yeah, we have these little clusters of flowers. As you can see, they're pretty small compared to the fruits. Little clusters.
There,
Mhm.
excuse me. With the Abelia in the second photograph, the red leaves, we've got it growing in the garden. I always wonder about those little red, are those the sepals, the red bits, the little leaves?
That's a very good
At
question.
the base of each flower?
Yeah, you mean these guys, right?
Yeah,
I'm honestly not sure. I'd have to do some more research to figure out if those are sepals or if they're bracts. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I want to say that they make me think that they could be sepals, but I don't want to actually say that unless I know. But that's a very good question. I'll try to look and see if I can find out the answer and why it's a certain thing.
Ivea, I have a question.
Uh-huh.
On the strawberry tree, it seemed to me I kept getting different answers about what it was. I would get it that it was the arbutus, but I also found references that said it was a madrone. Are they the same or are they somewhat different?
So they're both in the same genus. So madrone is Arbutus menziesii, and strawberry tree is Arbutus unido. So that's probably why, is because they're very closely related. In fact, I can write that right now into the chat. Arbutus menziesii is the madrone, and Arbutus unido, not undu, unido, is the strawberry tree. So it completely makes sense why it would have such a hard time identifying them, is because of how similar they are. You'll notice that madrone's fruits are very similar to this too.
It's amazing that the fruit is so much bigger than the flower. I mean, I guess there's no reason that it shouldn't be, but I don't think I've seen that very much. I guess actually, I guess apples certainly are bigger than the flower.
And to my understanding, the madrone fruits are also edible. So I think that they're edible the same way that the strawberry tree is edible.
Is it a compound fruit like raspberries, or is it just very pebbly?
Not entirely sure about that. With fruits, I have to admit, I'm not the strongest on my fruits. I get confused between false fruits and aggregate fruits and all of that other stuff. So my plan is to get better at that so that then I can talk about it here. But I've been meaning to look that up and get more understanding about how that all works.
They have, the strawberry tree fruit has like a core in it. It's like a very hard bit, not like a seed, but and then I was also wondering about toyon trees. Are they in that group as well?
Now, toyons are a bit different. Actually, that's going to be so much fun to talk about. Okay, so first of all, Whenever I eat these, I've also noticed that there are a bunch of seeds within them as well. So these definitely have more than one seed in there. And then, like you said, the core. As for the toyon is part of the rose family, but what's fun is the name. The name of the toyon, the scientific name is Heteromeles arbudifolia, meaning the leaves, the foliage is like that of the madrone, arbudifolia. So I think it's awesome that you asked that question.
Well, I've tasted them. They taste okay. They're very pithy, and the manzanita and madrone fruits are always also very dry and pithy, but kind of a nice taste. I mean,
It's true. They definitely they have that kind of astringent taste to them when you have them.
Seems like a lot of wild fruits,
They
you
do.
know, are like that, and then we breed them to be more tasty and less pithy and have, you know, bigger and all that. Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. So yeah, I think that was it. Oh, and I forgot to put the, oh well, whatever. So yeah, just a quick recap. That Ericaceae are oftentimes evergreen shrubs, clusters of small bell or urn-shaped flowers. Usually, sometimes that can be a bit of a different form. We have our 5 sepals. I forgot to also mention that a lot of times the leaves are, I think, alternate leaves too. We have our 5 sepals. We have our 5 petals that are oftentimes united into that lovely corolla. 5 to 10 stamens, and sometimes a long pistil sticking out. Or other times, like you saw with the cranberry, it can be kind of covered in like almost a tube of these stamens. But yeah, I think that is family today. So thank you for joining us. Now, if you like, we're 4 minutes ahead, so that's perfect. So if people like, people can ask me any questions, and also after questions we can share. But I want to make sure people get to ask their questions.
I have a question. The first round of the quiz, did we get to see what the other 2 plants were?
Oh, did I not mention? Here.
I'm not sure.
Let me hold on then. Let me get that back up again. Wait, where did you go? That's not where you're supposed to go. Hold on a second, sorry. New share. There we go, that's better. With the first ones. Okay, yeah, you're right, we didn't. So this one here, I believe it's a campanula. It's one of those bluebells, I think, or one of the bell shapes, one of the bell flowers. I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure it's called campanula. This one, does anybody recognize this one?
It looks similar to what I see right here, horse nettle, but I think that's a
Solanaceae.
It's solanaceae.
Solanaceae.
It is. This is potato flower.
Oh, okay. Yes.
So yeah, that is a good question. Was there any other questions?